I'd like for you to help me welcome today my good friend, Rachael Goff. Rachael is a wife to Stephen and a mom to three amazing kiddos. She is also a life coach and a friend who brings all the fun. I know, Rachael, have worked for quite some time now, providing excellent care for families. And I want to just let you kind of tell us about that.
You're so sweet. Thanks for having me. It's always so fun to talk to you. It's my favorite. So for the last 15 years, when the doctor says somebody's going to come talk to you about hospice, that's been me. So I go in there, I went in there, and whenever families are on the floor and I needed to get them up with a spatula, or they're so angry, or all the emotions. And so I coached them through the process of what does it look like to have a family member on hospice? What does that mean for everybody? And I worked through it on the front end with these patients. And then, so I've done that. I've done that for 15 years. And I guess around right at COVID, I kind of got to where I was like, this may be fun to do with people that are actually living, but living with maybe regret or living with anger, or helping them let go of things that were going on with their life so that we didn't have to deal with it when the time came to do hospice. I just saw where the relationships were strained. I was in the same boat before I got a coach. I was in the boat where I was grumpy, and if I would have had to face a terminal diagnosis, I would have been probably a lot of where they were, just not equipped emotionally to deal with hard things, or maybe in a shame and blame cycle. So when the opportunity came up to be a life coach, that's when I took the classes and did the things to kind of propel me into helping my sweet families more, and to help my peers who were also in the same boat that I was, help them move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what a beautiful story. I love it. You're such a blessing to all of us that know you. I know that you have just touched so many lives, I'm sure, in that professional world as well. How beautiful. Well, I know you just touched on some things that I would love to ask you about. You mentioned about the relationship factor, and I know a big part of that is, communication, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, most of my clients and my families, I mean, I hate to say spoiler, but we all have pretty much the same problems. Most of us are hanging on to something that somebody said, 2 or 3 years ago, or even something somebody said to us when we were a small child, and we believe it to be true, and we were just holding on to the story. And I often encourage my clients and my families to say, to give up, to stop doing that. And I help them with just slowing down and kind of look at the other side of it. Even like, maybe it's not true. Maybe the story that you've told yourself for so long isn't true. Maybe you are, or maybe it is true and it's not a big deal. Maybe you're making something, what do they say, a mountain out of a molehill, and it's directing your whole life, and it's directing your whole relationship, and it's making you resentful, when in your truest best self, that's not even close to what you want to show up as. That's not even close to where you want to be. You don't want to be resentful of your mom or dad for something that they did, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I help them a lot with that. I help them kind of see the stories that they keep telling themselves. And a lot of times, like, my clients and my families don't even realize they're telling each other the story. They don't even, it's like such a, it's just what happened. It's just matter of fact. So whenever they start telling me, or I start listening with intent to decode what's the real issue, that's when the miracles happen. That's when the breakthroughs happen. That's when you say, hey, I really don't want to believe that my parent or that my mom had a bad intention for me. I really don't want to think that they did this to screw up my life. I really don't want to think that my spouse doesn't, care for me. I really want to believe in the good. And so sometimes when telling the story that's in your head, when you actually say it out loud to someone, like the miracles happen, the decoding happens, hey, I can poke a hole in your story, and you could have told that story 100 times and never saw the hole. But when somebody's looking specifically for it, that's when the magic happens. And that's what we do.
Yes, I agree. It's like it brings it out of kind of darkness up into the light, so you can really analyze it, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's no fun to bring it out of the darkness into the light. But if you have a coach like me or like you, Stephanie, that honestly just see the joy in so much, when you bring your dark story, we help you pull it forward and help you to get it out and take the juju off of it. Like rub the brass and make it shine, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting because, whenever you mention how sometimes there's families holding on to a story and maybe that's building that resentment that you mentioned. And I've thought before, how we have often been told when we have an expectation of someone or of a relationship, that is just really like a delayed resentment. It's like that's just going to probably lead straight to resentment. Do you feel like you've seen that?
Oh, yes. It's grandma didn't leave me her best china, and now I'm ticked. And it should be mine, and dag nabbit, that's the way it should be. And you decode that. Well, is it worth the poison you hold in your mouth every day about that? Is that what the intent was? And yeah, in coach talk, we call it the manual, but it's the expectations. It's the things that you should do, and they should be thinking this, and they should have remembered that I wanted that wind chime, or they should have known that, or whatever it is. And they should know that I wanted them to fight with, they've got terminal cancer, and they should know that I want them to fight to the dying death and not care anything about quality of life or anything like that. And they should know. So you have these expectations that you put, and sometimes it's intentional. And sometimes it's a story that you tell that's brought up from your past that you didn't realize that it was going to trigger you, air quote, trigger you when this came up. Oh, when you gave up, it reminds me of the time that, and you carry that anger with you, and you're ticked, and you don't even know why you're ticked until you start decoding. And so we start talking until you start digging in.
That is so true. Very true. I know I've seen that with people as well. And how beautiful it is to be able to help them kind of deliver themselves a little bit out of that pit.
It's rejoiceful. You see them like the light bulb. It's like the right above their head, and they're like, you mean I don't have to be ticked? Tell me more.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Very true.
it's like, what do you mean? I've just been ticked off for so long, I don't know how to be unticked. And so you're like, no, let's not. Let's remember all the good things. Let's not dwell, because our brain wants to go to all the things that somebody did that was against us. Because those are on the top surface. And it's so important to remember all the things that were great, all the reasons why you loved them to begin with, all the reasons why they were in your life. So it's having somebody there that, in a coach, that sees the yin and the yang, that sees them both. And that's kind of what we do, and where we want to push our clients to go to.
That's a great way to say that. And it's kind of making me think a little bit about something that I've heard you say before. And I actually use it with my children when they were younger, even with little disputes they would have or whatever. But I love the way you've recently been sharing about how to drop the rope. Can you explain
Yeah,
that?
that's it. That's saying, I don't want to fight. I don't
Mhm.
want to fight. I give up. You win.
That's right.
You can win. You get to win. I quit.
Mhm.
And you get such, what do you mean you quit? Yeah, I mean, I'm still fighting over here. Okay, you do you. I'm gonna
Mhm.
be fine. I don't want to quit. I want to quit. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to drop the rope. And I'm an LSU girl, and there's a big thing around here from our baseball coach Skip Bertman, who says you hold the rope. Now you hold the rope for somebody who is you're fighting with. You hold the rope. You don't have to pull it as hard as I do. I will hold the rope for you. We are working together. But
Mhm.
when you are working against, you drop the rope, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
That does.
So you hold it. There's a time for holding and there's a time for dropping. And
Yes.
when you're working against someone and you're working against a relationship, when that's more valuable, then you drop it. When you're I'm working with families to move through grief, to through anger, we will work together.
Mhm.
And that will bring us together, together, our spirit together, our body together, our love together. When we're working towards, that'll develop our relationship.
Mhm. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. It's a lot like what you hear people say too, like within a marriage or other relationships, whenever they say, you want to fight for the marriage or for the relationship, not against one another. It's the same idea, just said in a
Yes,
different.
together we're going to get there. But if it's me versus you can win.
Mhm.
You get to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to win to make me feel better, is what you're really saying.
Mhm.
You're really taking your ego out of it. You're
That's right.
saying, I don't care that I'm wrong. I love you more.
That's
I
right.
care about you more.
Mhm.
So if that's what you need, baby, I'm gonna give it to you.
That's right. That's beautiful. And I know you're so good at that, so good at delivering that. Now, it's
I
making
try.
me also think of a recent thing that you shared, which I believe is actually a quote from one of our fellow
Oh,
coaches.
Eileen.
Yes. You want to share that with us?
What was it? It's not a
It-
problem until it's a problem.
yes, it's
You
not a problem until you
decide.
decide it's a problem, is what it
You
is.
decide if you want to pick up the rope. You get to decide. You don't even have to, legit, you don't even have to pick up the rope at all. If someone tells you something, you could be like, oh, well, that's not a problem. It's not a problem to me. You can do whatever you want to, not a problem. And that's the involvement that you have, that you strive for. That's the middle that that's like what the touchdown line goes to. That's a home run.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes when we first start and we're just bunting, how's that? We're trying, we're like, I really want to hold it. Oh my gosh, I'm not ready to just say whatever, let it fly. So then you kind of get better. The more and more you practice, the better and better you're going to get at just shaking it off. Like, doesn't matter, shake it off. And what I teach my clients a lot is, in the beginning, what you're going to want to do whenever a problem comes and you've made the conscious effort that this is a problem. I have been scorned in such a way that this is going to be a problem. I will have my clients write it down and write every reason it's a problem. Because you can say, oh, my kid has a sassy mouth. That is a big problem. But when you stop and write it all down, like, why is that a problem? And a lot of times, one of the first things you write is, because it makes me feel.
Mhm. Right.
And the reason it's a problem is because it's making you feel a certain way. It's not even that the problem is, you've got to decode, why is it a problem to me? And then once you've decoded why it's a problem, then you can address what is actually, like you always say, what's a them problem versus what's a me problem. Like, why, whenever my kid has a bad attitude, why does that trigger me? Why do I feel like, what is it bringing up in me? So then that's whenever you kind of say, all right, he can't, my smart mouth kid can't fix that. When he does it reminds me of this scenario that happened. He can't fix that, but I'm certainly bringing that to the table whenever I'm disciplining, and whenever I'm, trying to parent, I'm bringing this story back to the table that has nothing to do with him.
Right.
So that's a trick to figuring out, when is it a problem, when is it not a problem.
So that's very good. How it affects other people when we decide if it's a problem or not.
Right. And especially like with my kids, whatever, because it's easy to say, for me, it's easy to help my husband, my sweet husband, Stephen. It's easy for me to give him all the latitude because I'm not responsible for him. But for my kids, I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm supposed to be parenting. This is the part where I parent. Oh, wait, am I parenting? Am I parenting clean? Am I not parenting clean? What am I making this mean? All of it.
Yes. Very good. So good. Because we have to deal with our own stuff before we can be a good parent or spouse or even just friend. So that's so true. Cleaning all that up. It's good.
Yeah, you're going at it dirty. You're going at it with preconceived ideas on what should or shouldn't happen for stories that may or may not be true.
Right. There's a lot of cleaning up to do in all of that. And it's so beautiful and fruitful when you do clean it up, because then your relationships flourish.
And it's not a clean it up one time.
That's true.
That's where a lot of, I've had clients do that, where it's like going to the gym. It's like going to the gym and like getting all, lifting a bunch of weights and feeling strong. And, you've got your body, if you related, the lifting the weights is like doing the work on the back end to clean up your brain and clean up your parenting. Well, if you don't go to the gym, those muscles that you were using that are so strong are going to atrophy. If you're not cleaning your brain up consistently, you're going to revert right back to where it's, because things are going to happen every day. So you're going to go right back to parenting from a place of anger or place of hurt about things that have happened since you cleaned it up. Or you'll be like me, you'll talk yourself back into things you were mad about. I'll go through it and I'll do the work to talk myself out of something I've been mad about. And then I'll pick that thing right up where I left it. I mean, and then I'll have to just be like, oh, here it is again. Here's my brain doing the human things. And so you just got to work back through it.
Yeah, that's so good. So being onto our brain and taking our thoughts captive, I think, is such a huge part of helping one another, and especially in this role that we're in of coaching other people. So this has been wonderful to talk with you. I just love this. And I wanted to ask you if there's anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up today.
No, well, the only thing I'll say, as far as a lot of people get resistant to coaching because they feel like it's my problem and I have to do it myself. And I'm like, I've had clients that have said, I've struggled with this for so long, but it's my problem. It's my issues. And I just want to remind you or your listeners and everyone that we're in this together. We're in this as a humankind together. We're in this as a follower of Christ together, and we will grab each other and pull each other up together. And the thought that it's my problem and I can't tell anybody and it's so secretive and I have so much shame back. around it, that's what keeps you stuck. That's what keeps you in the problem. And when you let go and you get yourself the help you need, that's whenever you really start living. So
Yes.
I just want to encourage that it's not a you problem, it's an us problem, because just because you're holding it in doesn't mean it's not spilling out other places.
So
And
true.
you're not aware of it because you think, oh, it's just me. I'm just, I'm not, it's not, I'm not going to tell anybody that I feel this way, that I feel inadequate, that I feel
Mhm.
hostile towards my boss, wife, husband, kid, grandparent, in-laws. I'm not going to tell them. Well, a lot of times you not telling them, it shows up in different ways, and it helps everybody when you help yourself.
That's so true. That's
Like,
beautiful.
you put the oxygen on you first.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, this has just been delightful as always to talk with you today. And I just want to thank you again for being on here. We are going to have Rachel's contact information in the show notes. So if you would like to reach out to Rachel, follow her on social media, all of that info will be in the show notes. Be sure you look for that. And until next time, Rachel.
You are the sweetest. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk to your sweet followers and listeners. You're the sweetest.
Well, thank you for being willing. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, this is my hope for you. You can find me at stephaniejohns.com or on the gram at the Hope Coach. You can use the links in the show notes below to apply for one-on-one coaching and to join my email list.